Hello and welcome to the lovely River Severn in Bewdley in Worcestershire. I'm joined by my good friend and fellow reviewer Dave Roberts. And Dave, we've got some lovely tackle to put through its paces today.
You've been good to me, haven't you? You've brought me on a river and you've got you've given me three float rods, which is just, that's wonderful, isn't it, eh? We've actually we're real specific. We've got just an 8 float fishing edition today, so on an iconic venue, I'd say, wouldn't you?
River Severn at Bewdley must surely rank in the top 5 river venues in the country.
Yeah, and like a barbel mecca. And in all fairness, I fish here quite a bit, but it's you know, it's not all about the barbel. There's lots of other fish here, and that's really what we're about today, isn't it? About sort of coming and the rods we've got to test. We've got to fish a variety of methods, and we're just going to try and get some bites and catch some fish that here, you know, it's renowned for its barbel, but the roach and dace and everything else, they're what are going to give us some bites and hopefully some sport today.
Well, as much as I hate to give you any credit and big you up at all,
no, you don't like doing that. Really.
I also am looking forward to picking your brains because you are a bit of a master at the old rod and line fishing. I've noted this before. Former world champion or current reigning world champion, as you keep reminding me.
Two times world champion.
Oh, okay.
I like that one. That's what I'll be using next year when I'm not raining.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing a fine display of Waggler, stick float and Bolognese fishing.
No, you're going to be doing all the fishing. I'm just going to be guiding you and giving you a bit of advice.
Criticising.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. Wouldn't do that. So.
Should we go and have a go?
Let's go and have a go.
So Dave, in your hand there is the Preston Innovations 13-foot Supera. There's 2 models in that range. One's 3 to 10 gram and one's 6 to 18 gram. That's a 3 to 10 gram model you've got there. What are your thoughts on it?
Okay, so it's the lighter one of the two, and what I'm seeing is a rod that's got a nice tippy action. You know, it's like for this sort of fishing, you know, we're fishing it on a light stick float, you know, catching small fish generally. You don't want to be pulling out a fish with a sort of a too heavy a tip. So it certainly feels that sort of rod. It feels just right for this sort of thing. All right, we're not using a really small hook today, but we're using small. You know, you could use like a 20 hook, and I don't feel you'd be in fear of pulling out a fish. There's a fish. So yeah, just when you're like, you know, you can see that's a small fish, but it doesn't feel like you're in danger of pulling out of it. It's
a little roach, look at that. Oh,
we do like roach, Tom. I do like roach. Look at that.
That is simply.
Now that
lovely.
is exactly what I had in mind when we set this stick float up on this rod, you know, just catching roach, little dumpy roach, lively dumpy roach. Look at that. What's that, 3 or 4 ounces?
Beautiful. Let me ask you about that, because that was my next question. You obviously are an angler who does an awful lot of this sort of running line fishing for roach and dace. You opted to put the stick float on that shorter rod, that 13-foot one. Just talk us through why you think that's the right length for stick float fishing. 'Cause I'll be honest, my gut reaction would maybe have been a longer rod.
Okay, so what I was saying about the lighter tip and, you know, pulling out a fish and stuff, I find you need to fish with the shortest rod you can get away with, because with length, you know, longer rods, you know, even the quality of these rods now, you know, as you know, the carbon technology's improved, it's still a more, you know, you add more length to a rod, it becomes more cumbersome.
Yes.
And I think that in turn can lead to you striking too hard or just losing some of that feel. And that's why I just like to fish as short as I can, and you know, we're not fishing in really deep water, we're not fishing in really fast water. The wind's generally behaving itself at the moment. It's not like it's a bad downstream wind where you need that extra length to get behind your float. And it just, yeah, I just like using the shorter rods I can, because I just find this sort of fishing is very much about touch, you know, about just sort of little strikes, not laying into things, and you know, you're not fishing big baits, just it's all about touch and just quite delicate fishing. And I do this, you know, even on the Y when it's a bit sort of, you know, when you're catching great big fish, I'm still fishing short rods and just trying to you know, feel in touch with the fish, and I just think you can just lose some of that as you use a longer rod. So as much as we all use longer rods, I'll just fish with. I love fishing with a 13-footer. I've had a snag there, but
I thought you got a big fish right under the feed.
No, just a snag, Tom. I'm not that good.
Stop it, Dave.
But no, it feels right. It's you know, it feels like a nice light rod for this sort of thing, and it would be the sort of rod that I would use myself in these circumstances.
So stopping with that theme then, it's usability obviously. Stick float fishing, you are holding the rod all day, it's got to be comfortable. What do you think of the handle, what do you think of the reel seat, etc.? What's your thoughts on all that?
Well, it's all very nicely put together. I say Preston seem to, with their rods now, whatever rods it is, and we've reviewed commercial rods, short rods and whatever, they've got their own identity now, and you know, it looks like a Preston rod. You know, it's got that dark, you know, interesting, you know, these bits of blue they add to that. So you know, the look of it's great. It's got lots of little features with this flattened handle here. You've got, you know, cork and duplon. You know, little features like that. It just makes it look the part. It's got the little hook-up eye there, a screw-down reel seat. You know, I think it looks like a Preston rod, and that in turn looks nice.
You said to me earlier you didn't know how much these rods were worth. How much would you expect to pay for that product? Because you don't obviously know the RRP, I do.
No. I could make myself look silly now, couldn't I? I feel like you're dealing with rods in the sort of, you know, again up towards £200, that sort of bracket. I don't know, but I don't know. You know, with Preston these days, they do such good rods. For, you know, they have some of the rods we've reviewed in the past have been, you know, dirt cheap for what they are really. So I don't know, but yeah, this is the sort of rod I'd be looking at, sort of into well over £100, but you know, possibly under £200. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not far off. 179.99's RRP on that rod. You will pick them up slightly cheaper, obviously.
Right. Okay. Well, that's the sort of.
That was
straight under them, wasn't it?
Dace, that,
I think there's some bleak there, you know, and I don't like bleak, Tom.
You're very anti-bleak. All we heard all this morning was fear and trepidation about bleak taking over.
Well, it just does. They just know how to spoil a good day, don't they? I've bumped one then.
They're on the way, and them chubbles soon bully them out of the way.
We'll just be picking up a bigger catapult in a minute. That's all that's going to happen here, Tom.
And interestingly, 3 float rods. Obviously, we've started on this one shorter. The plan is to work our way out, but I do feel it'd be quite rude if you didn't let me have a little go in it.
Well, it's not about being rude. It's about being trusting. You know, I've got to weigh this job up really. And at the moment, I don't feel you're quite ready. I think you need to watch me a little bit more, just to see how delicate you can be with a rod, because you are the epitome of heavy-handedness, aren't you?
I've been called the epitome of heavy-handedness. I've been called some things in my time, but that's a terrible thing to say to a man.
No, I'm just trying to keep you talking so you don't ask for the rod.
No,
you can have a go in a minute. I just feel like we've only just started and we're not, you know, I feel like we're in a flow having a nice roach. I'm sure there's going to be others there.
You're in your element, aren't you?
I do like this. It's just like simplicity, and it's stick float fishing. It's not, you know, we're not fishing far out, just trickling a bit of bait, some quality casters. You know, it's what
fishing's all about.
Well, it was for me anyway. This is what I grew up on, and I'll probably never tire of this.
No, 60 odd years doing it, and you're still as keen as you were when you first started, Dave, eh?
I'm not even responding to that. You're a horrible man at times.
Just talk us through the rig while we're on the subject. You've got strung number 8s on there. Sort of
yeah,
tapered.
it's a nice little 6 number 4 stick float, just shotted with number 8 strung out. Oh, I bumped one again.
Did you bump one?
Yeah, I did bump one.
Oh,
so I've got it strung out in the bottom half just to get it down, because it's quite. Actually, it was deeper here than I thought it was going to be. It's like about 7 foot, 6 foot, 7 foot.
A nice depth, really.
Yeah, just right, especially this sort of early autumn fishing. Yeah, it's a 6 number 4 stick float, straight out with number 8. Real. It's not fancy, but it's just very neat, isn't it? I love that. And my theory with these stick float patterns, you know, these shotting patterns, is, you know, a nice string of shots, if it's done, especially on a tapered sort of string of shots. When you hold that float back, you get a real nice gradual lift of the thing. Yes. You know, like bulk rigs, they fly up. You know, everything's a lot sort of more exaggerated, isn't it? Whereas with this, you can sort of just slow it down, and you know your hook bait's going to just flutter up, and it's all the sort of things that get roach excited, isn't it? So that's yeah, that's the setup, and that's I'd use that rig. I'd use that sort of setup for loads of sort of different scenarios, as long as the flow's not too aggressive, too boily or anything. If I can get away with a string of shots like that, I'm happy.
We had a saying up north, Dave, when listen to some of the old Sheffield boys talk about the stick float legends like John Allerton and Dave Thomas and people like that. They said they could make it talk. They could make it talk.
Oh yeah, that's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
I think you actually make it sing, Dave, as it slides down there.
It'd be better. It would be singing better if it had a fish on the end, wouldn't it? I've got to catch you a fish because I know you're itching to have a go, and I feel like you're just going to make me look silly again.
No, this isn't my game. This isn't. I've done a bit of it, but this year I've been feeder flinging all year, on the Trent. Bit of bolo fishing, but mainly feeder flinging.
Yeah, no, this is. I've always said this, that if there was one type of fishing that I could do for the rest of my life, if someone said you can just do one thing, it would be stick float fishing for roach. Now, what have we got there, sir? That's a bit more decent.
A bit more substantial.
Yeah, probably just a big dace actually, the way it's kicking, but I never know. But look at that rod now. So that's. Look at that. I'm not gonna. It don't feel like you're gonna pull out. I like that.
It's got everything, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Soft. You're in control.
Always in control, Tom. What we got?
What is it?
What is it? Is it a big roach?
It's a big roach. Oh my word.
Do you know what? It'd be sacrilege to swing that just because it's the first one we've had that size today. I'm going to land it. I'm going to land it, Tom. Look at that.
Absolutely lovely. And that definitely signals the end of your go.
Well, I'll happily give it up now because I've caught,
Hold him up.
possibly
What's it, 6-8 ounce?
best looking roach. Get that leaf out of the way. Single caster. That's like stick float nirvana.
Oh,
Eh? Isn't it?
what a lovely fish. Hopefully there's plenty more of them for us to catch today.
Yeah. You can have a go now, Tom.
You're good to me.
I'm happy.
Well, Dave, I've got to say, it does feel absolutely lovely in the hand.
What, the rod?
Absolutely. See that? Absolutely beautiful. Casts lovely, doesn't it? Line flies through the eyes.
That's it with
You
it.
see why you like this sort of thing?
Well, this is it, you see, because you're fishing such a light stick float. Well, so some would say 6 number 4s isn't light, but it's light for what I do.
Yeah.
So everything needs to be right, your line choice and everything, and then you need the, you need the rod to be, like I say, reactive and able just to sort of flick it out there. You don't want a floppy rod.
The thing is, as well, to be honest, like I said, I mean, if I'd have been sort of choosing a rod for this, I would have gone for a longer rod. But like now I'm actually stood here fishing, you can control that beautifully, can't you? And like you say, I suppose it's just taking note of conditions, isn't it?
Yeah. The other thing as well, you can with a longer rod, I say, you just lose a bit of feel, and the other place it can affect you is when you're actually playing fish, because
Yes.
you don't feel those quick lunges. You got a fish on.
I think we have.
You don't feel
Yeah,
those sort of deep
small
lunges.
Right at the bottom of the peg, that one was.
Yeah, it took that long for you to get the right presentation, to be honest.
Stop it, Dave. So rude.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that, that's lovely. 4 ounce.
That is a lovely roach.
Is there a better way to spend a Friday morning in September on the River Severn at Bewdley catching them?
Autumn for me is roach. Roach are an autumn fish for me. I know they catch. There's plenty of venues in the country where they catch all through the summer and that, but for me, that's an autumn fish.
Dave, I've got to say your hook is blunt.
It's not.
Did
Did you pull out of anything?
all right, your hook might not be blunt, but the casters are immensely strong then, and I've got a tangle thanks to that. And this is clearly your fault.
Hold on, I can hear circus music.
Sending the clowns. Wrap round the tip, Dad. Wrap round the tip. There we are. That's sorted it, I think.
I used to do that when I first started.
Did you?
Yeah.
That was a long time ago, wasn't it? Hey, you're still tangled. Oh no, we're not. I think we've shook it out. We'll see. We'll cast out and see what happens. Yeah, tangled.
At least we're not on film, eh, Tom?
Yeah, at least we're not. I just got too giddy catching that roach, didn't I?
It is good though, and it's just Yeah, roach on a stick float and casters. It's like, what would that be like? Chips and mushy peas?
Up north, yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Let's feed again, shall we?
Yeah, just take it steady, don't go too heavy. They're only roach. You don't want to create competition with the roach.
You not think so?
No, they're
Line
not.
'em
They're
up.
not F1s. They're not carp.
Line them up, queue them up.
Yeah.
Oh, a bite right under the...
Yeah, right on the feed, that one.
Wouldn't it just?
I think we're going to catch a few here, you know.
I think it's a great day to be out. I think, oh, that one's, it's had me caster. It's done me like a dog. So, just out of interest, Dave, just while I catch another roach on the old stick float, if this was a match here on this peg today, what would you have set up?
Well, it's such a, this is a heavily match fish stretch, and I can't say I've ever really got to grips with it here. I love coming here and I've had some good success here, but I've also struggled to get into the mindset of the place sometimes because, and bear in mind we fish a lot of float only matches here, which is great. I love that. I love just taking the feeder fishing out of it. But obviously the barbel are a big part of match fishing here. And even on float only, you've got to give yourself an option of being able. So sometimes that's just by heavy feeding on a different line, with hemp and casts or whatever. But a lot of in the last few years, I've seen a lot of people just flicking bits of meat out and just running a piece of meat through, and they might run it through 30 times, but on the 31st time it goes under and they have a 6 pound barbel, and it's like,
yeah, all of a sudden
it's been worth all that work. But I'll tell you, that takes some guts. So I'd certainly be looking to start like we are. The only other option would be maybe to fish worms for perch, because there's a lot of perch in here through the summer and into the autumn. So certainly on a peglet where you've got some depth, I think you could probably put a chopped worm line in or something like that. So you'd have to make a decision. One thing I have had reasonable success on here is actually starting on a chopped worm line and then loose feeding caster over the top and turning it into a stick float line like this. Yeah. That's one option. But then you've got to look out into the river. You need 2 or 3 lines going. So I'd be looking at probably what we're going to do today. Actually, we're going to feed a Waggler line a bit further out, and I'd probably feed that fairly moderately to start and see what's on it. And then if you're getting small fish, then you can always step it up, can't you? But you definitely want 2 lines. You can't just fish 1 line all day. You've got to give yourself something to back off to.
One thing I've noticed we are getting here is a lot of bleak swirling for the bait. They do catch some big old weights of bleak on here, don't they? They
do. I wouldn't say this. Well, yeah. I can't remember that many matches being won with bleak here. No. But they play a big part in the matches in building up towards, get yourself a quick 2 or 3 pounder bleak, and it's the equivalent of having a bonus chub or something like that. It's so they do play a part. But what I do find here, as opposed to sort of like the Y, is that you can get through the bleak a bit here. You can sort of, I wouldn't say you can feed them off, but I don't know. These seem a bit more. Some venues you go to now, if you have bleak in your peg, like there's a few bleak swirling on your bait there, but you're getting through them. Look, they've just got that's sunk down naturally. I reckon you've got a dace there.
Might be a foul look dace, I hate to say that, looking at it how it's fighting.
Nah, it's not foul looked.
You don't think it's foul looked? I think we're all right.
It's fine, Tom.
You've got to be really good to get them dace in among them roach, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, Dave, that is a stunning rod. I'm going to swing that one again, look, just for show. A bit more line off. 2 Oz dace.
See, those are bread and butter fish at Bewdley.
Gorgeous.
You get your head down, catch those, and you can catch some roach in amongst it as well. Always putting fish in the net, Tom.
Absolutely lovely. I think that's a stunning piece of kit. Couldn't be more impressed. For the price point, if you want a float rod that's good value for money and does everything you want it to do, it's light enough, isn't it? I do feel there's the power there for some bigger fish as well. Yeah, I'd like to hook either like a big perch or a chub or something like that on it, because I think it seems to have the right action to go right, to go right through, and it wouldn't. It would handle it, but certainly for this, I thought it was lovely to use, and it's it's just right for this sort of light fishing, light stick float fishing. Nice quality rod. Should we have a go on the Waggler? We can do, yes. Let's do it. Right, Dave, the 13-foot Garbolino Essential Match Waggler rod, RRP 204.99, so a flagship piece of kit from Garbolino. That's the top of the range Waggler rod that they do. What's your verdict?
It's nice. Ooh. Getting a few bleak bites out there now, Tom. I think they've just been a bit annoying. Yeah, no, I mean it's very easy on the eye.
Yeah.
Nice slim blank. This sort of rod interests me because it's got that medium action tag. You know, it's a medium action rod, which tells me that it's just got a little bit more. You know, so you know, as opposed to sort of fishing on a still water. You know, on the river, you're putting it through a bit more. You know, you're striking hard. You know, you're doing a lot with it. Sometimes catching bigger fish, and that medium action, I think, just gives it that bit extra. And you know, for me, the key is like things like this when you're mending the line, quick recovery of the rod. Look, it's sort of, you know, it settles
You're
down.
big on that recovery, aren't you? I think that's
yeah, because I think there's nothing worse than you know, when you're striking or whatever you're doing with the rod, you need it to be responsive like that. You know, you need to strike quick. You know, and
yeah.
If it rod's floppy, if it's sort of collapsed, you know, as you're striking, if it's folding, it just doesn't do the job. It's.
Do you think it leads to more tangles as well when it's like that, when it's sloppier?
Yeah, because your line's flapping as it does. So, yeah, important part for me is the action of the rod, and you can just see it's got, you know, as opposed to earlier on with fishing stick float, you know, and that just required for me a little bit more softness in the tip. For this sort of rod, I want, you know, fast recovery, and I want a little bit sort of stiffer action, so that when I, you know, mend the line or when I strike, it's real fast action, and there's
definitely is slightly stiffer, isn't it, than the Preston rod?
A little touch there.
A little bit more pokey.
Yeah.
Right. I'll ask you a question, because you've done something which I find quite offensive, to be honest.
Go on.
You've upset me.
Go on. Well, not for the first time, I'm sure, Tom.
Well, you know, I don't like to dwell on these things, Dave. You know, I'm not a bitter person, but I gave you a lovely, lovely flagship Garbolino rod.
Yeah.
You've left the cellophane on the cork. What's that all about?
Well, no, I didn't feel comfortable enough. Fish are having a play in the net. I didn't feel comfortable enough to take it off, Tom. Now, you don't have to tell me about this, because I went to Scotland salmon fishing once.
Yeah.
And the gilly on the stretch, I'd got my lovely new fly rod, right? And the gilly on the stretch absolutely laid into me about leaving the cellophane on the rod.
And rightly so, that's what.
So go on then, Tom, tell me the reason why we shouldn't leave the cellophane on the rod.
Well, to tell the full story, I got told off for this once years ago as well. Dave Howell gave me a right telling off when I first started working at Match Fishing magazine for doing this, because moisture gets under the cellophane and actually rots the cork if you're not careful. So.
And that's what this gilly told me, because he said, you've spent all that money on that fantastic rod and you're just going to ruin it. And he said it like that. I felt right told off. It was like being back at school, Tom.
Yeah.
So we did, but we didn't take it off on this one because we didn't feel the, you know, it's not ours to take off, is it, Tom?
Well, possession is 9/10 of the law, Dave. You should know this.
The minute you take that cellophane off, it's ours. Is that what you're saying? It's like a security tag in Tesco's or something.
Seriously, if the offer was there, would you fish with that rod?
I would actually. I like these. I like the way rods are becoming so slim now. You know, in their that's such a slim blank. You know, it's a 13-foot rod. It's got loads of power, loads of poke, loads of, you know, real responsive action. You're having to duck out the way when I'm casting.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if I caught you in the ear, wouldn't it? That'd be a good day at work. That would. Yeah, it's just yeah. No, I tried to fish with this, and it's they're quite. You know, it's there's little features. You've got the same. You know, this is sort of seems to be standard on a lot of rods now. But you get this little hook up eye here for you putting your rig on when you're not using the rod. Cork and Duplon. Nice reel seat, again wind down reel seat. These are popular now, aren't they? So yeah, it looks the part. Seems to fish the part. I'd like to catch a bigger fish on it though, to really see how it looks. But I'm failing you here, Tom. I expect you're going to be wanting to go in a minute, aren't you? Oh,
something a bit more substantial, Dave.
Let's pull him back a little bit.
What do you think that one is?
It feels too big to be a roach.
Chub?
No, it's not pulling on. I reckon. I don't know. Oh, it could be a chub.
A bit dogged, isn't it?
Could be a perch, you know.
So, this rod build is something that can do everything, from light silver to landing some better fish as well. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, look at that now. I mean, that's proper through action, that isn't it? It's got some guts here. I don't know what this is yet. I think it is a perch.
Oh, nice perch! Look at that.
It's a little stripey, isn't it, eh? We like
Look at
them.
that, 12 ounce a pound. It's
It's a pound any day of the week, Tom.
worth a pound of anybody's money, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, no, the rod, that's just a nice action rod. It's not too pokey. You know, sometimes these sort of medium action rods can almost be too pokey. But so it's got softener. I'd feel confident playing, you know, chub on lighter, you know, smaller hooks maybe. But that's just a little stunner. Woo! There we go.
They're in the net.
There we go. So yeah, no, it's the action is kind of, it's what I'd expect from a medium action rod. It's just you know, it bends through. But as I say, the big thing with these rods for me is the recovery time.
Yeah.
You know, when you mend the line quickly or you do something, how long it is before it stops bouncing and flapping around. You know, which this is, yeah, it's quite reactive. I like it.
Would you say it's strong enough to be a commercial rod? Would you fancy catching a few carp on it, or is it just not got that much poke?
No, I think as long as you're, I'd maybe say more like an F1 rod, you know, something like that, because I suppose if you got, it'll bend. It's got a good bend in it, you know. So if you hook a bigger carp, it'll go through. But it just seems to have, it's got a nice fast action. So if you were hitting bites at distance, you know, like real, it would. I think it would do the job. But it's certainly, you know, if I say the action's just right for this Waggler fishing, which is what, you know, you could use it on stick float or something like that. But it's just got that. For me, it's the perfect action for striking at distance and picking up line quickly. That's the thing with a lot of the Waggler fishing we do, is it's picking up line as quick as you can, getting it off the water and connecting with the fish. And we certainly did that. What are your first impressions then, Tom?
Well, that feels to me absolutely lovely. But I mean, it's a good price, isn't it? We're talking a rod that's, you know,
well, it demanded
200 quid RRP.
Yeah, it's not, and at that
not
price,
cheap piece.
it's demanding a bit of quality, isn't it? You know, you're not going to, you expect certain things from a rod at that price. So it's, but it looks the part.
We've just had 10 minutes fishing, haven't we? Off the bottom, on the bottom, trying to catch some quality fish. And you looked at me like I'd just, well, I don't know, done something unthinkable to your wife, suggesting we fish for bleak on a Waggler.
I'm just saying, Tom, it's like I have a rule about fishing for bleak on a Waggler, and that is you don't do it. It's just a simple rule. You just don't, you know what I mean? If you think about it, give yourself a slap and move on. You know, it's not.
This was similar to fishing for roach on the method feed. You weren't very up on that idea.
No, I wasn't either. But I've just shown you there's big perch there. You know, it's all right. The bleak have been a pain, but you can work together. Go on, talk me through. Just tell me what a lovely bleak it is.
Well, look at it. Is that not a lovely bleak?
No, it's a bleak.
No, seriously though, we have to acknowledge the fact that for a rod like this, have you ever been to Evesham, Dave? Have you ever been to Evesham? Bleak on a Waggler is vital, a vital skill to have in your armoury.
That's where I came up with my one rule about bleak fishing on Waggler. No, it's not nothing. But I can see why you're trying to do it, because obviously you're struggling to get bites off anything else. I can see you've broken down and you've reverted to it. However, what it is giving you a chance to do is to cast lots, strike lots, and feed lots, and
that's the name of the game, isn't it?
So with this sort of rod, you're putting them together now, Tom, aren't you?
Might be a duck that day. Oh no, it's not. We've got another. This is a quality bleak. This is.
Yeah.
This is what you've been missing out on with your small-minded big fish attack.
Yeah, I'm perfectly comfortable with it, honestly. But no, it's in all fairness, what you're doing there, you're casting, striking, mending the line, and that's what, you know, so many matches and so many sessions of fishing are like, isn't it? If you're really getting into a rhythm, and it's no good if you've got a sort of a sloppy rod or anything like that. It's not quite so much fun then, is it?
No, and the other side to it is, well, yeah, you just sort of summed it up. It's that thing about the rod, isn't it? I mean, if it were too pokey, you'd just, you know, probably bump off a lot of fish. Not necessarily all of them, because bleak are quite aggressive, aren't they? You can fish big hooks, but I do think, you know, the ability to wind them in on relatively light gear, you do need a rod that's soft and responsive and just lets you do it. And I'm quite enjoying myself, you know, to fish a chuck.
It's just when you know that there's bigger fish underneath, Tom, it just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, you had one perch. Let's not get carried away. One perch.
I had a nice dace as well.
I've had more bleak than you've had, weight-wise. Maybe if it carried on for half an hour. What do you reckon?
But when you put your head on the pillow tonight, can you really look at yourself and think, I'm a real man?
Oh, don't start waving those big balls about again, Dave, for God's sake. It's because you've caught a perch. Oh my word.
I just at this stage now, I'm looking for other ways of catching.
I'm so angry. I've tangled myself around the end of the rod. But we're going to go on a bollo in a minute, aren't we?
Yeah, I think bollo might get us down a bit more and get us down through these bleak. Unless you're thinking of fishing for shallow for bleak on bollo, is that your next plan? Is it? Such an attacking northern angler like yourself. That wind's got a bit naughty
northern
now.
angler. I've been called some things.
That wind's made it right tricky for you to catch them bleak now, isn't it?
Oh, it's bleak for those who look at that. What's finer than that?
Have you got a couple of days? I'll start now. Oh, Tom, it's painful, but I have to say the rod does look nice. It's interesting they've got that the carbon on it. It goes colour, you know, two different colours, isn't it? It's got that sort of greyish carbon on the second section and black on it. Is it?
Yeah.
Do you reckon that's a technological point, or do you think it's just
well, there wasn't
cosmetic?
a lot of information, to be honest, about this rod when I looked online, other than a sort of brief description of what it is, where it sits in the range. This is the flagship rod in the range, and obviously the fact that it's designed for, you know, it's at home catching silvers on rivers as it is, you know, on commercials really. So it's designed as an all-round piece of kit, but obviously on the venue we've sort of chose to bring it to today, we were looking more for what it's like for, you know.
And I'm sure they're going to be delighted that you've given it such a highlight on bleak fishing. You know, I think.
One perch, and all of a sudden you think you're Jeremy Bleeding Wade, don't you? Eh?
Now listen,
River monsters.
Talk to me about Garbolino, because Garbolino has been in this country for a lot of years.
Yep.
And it's been like I'd call it just a real steady performer. It's not sort of, you know, it doesn't go up and down. It's like, you know, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't sort of disappear from the market. It's been stable, and I know a big part of that has been Darren Cox and the team he's got there. You and I both know Darren, but Darren knows what UK match fishing requires, doesn't he? And,
he's such a clever bloke, great customer as well, and good friend. And yes, as you say, what they're doing with that brand is quite nice. And the thing, you know, when you speak to him, is really well grounded. They're not trying to take over the world. They're not trying to compete with your biggest brands that obviously have got much bigger budgets, etc. But what they are trying to do is just bring out really good quality tackle. You know, they have got quite a big range of products actually, but it's important to them that, you know, that the sort of key products are good quality. That's really important to them. And
it's another European brand, isn't it? That's got a much bigger portfolio, but again, they're able to be specific for the UK market and bring in what they believe will sell.
Yeah, and I mean, they've some real hero products over. I mean, only on the time I've been working with them. Well, look here, you've got one of their legless side trays on, haven't you? You know, that's a perfect example. The bait chopper. You know, they've got some lovely pole floats in the DC and SP ranges. They've got a lot of really nice tackle that is really relevant and suitable for UK fishing.
Do you know what I remember as well about Garbolino? I'm pretty sure, I'm not wrong on this, I'm pretty sure they brought out the first ever method mould.
They did, Neil Machin.
Yep, it was the first.
I remember that.
Forerunner for that. So,
they're a great brand. They're going from strength to strength, and it's good to see. And this is a lovely, lovely piece of kit. I've enjoyed using it. I agree with what you said. I think it is a little bit pokier than the Preston rod we use for stick float fishing. I'd definitely probably, this would be my choice if it was commercial fishing, maybe with the chance of the odd bigger fish, or if it was out and out chub. Would you say that's a fair comment?
I think out and out Waggler, if I'm honest. That's what I'm looking at. I'm just thinking this is far more suited
Yeah.
for quick pickup of line, fishing a bit further out, and like you say, it has got, you know, chub and things like that. It's a bit it's just got that bit more there, you know.
Yeah.
Have you got another bleak?
Look at that. Lovely.
Oh, I think the stamp's gone slightly down.
Look, we've given them something to watch, haven't we? We've played to the crowds, haven't we, folks? You know what I mean?
I can only apologise.
Not like some glory hunting, big fish, Jeremy Wade wannabes. Are we, we're going bollow fishing?
Should we go bollow fishing now? Yeah.
I think I'm just tangled the up lengths. I think it's about time.
Yeah.
Look around and you were crossing the street. Took a breath and I walked up to you. Asked the darling, oh, when can we meet? 'Cause now it's not too late. I want to sit away alone by myself. I'm not just gonna stay away. I want to decide.
There we go, Tom. You've actually got something that pulls back now. You've come off the Waggler and you've gone on the bollow.
Yeah, it's boring though, isn't it? And these fish,
What are we saying, roach?
I'm saying dace, that's a guess. Oh, you were right,
That's a
Dave.
little roach
You were
there.
right. Lovely bite on the bollow down the peg. Now this is the 17-foot Drennan Acolyte, and I've got to be honest, I've used quite a few rods from the Acolyte range in the past. I've got one of their 15-footers that Peter very kindly gave to me a couple of years ago to try, and that's an absolutely awesome piece of kit for like stick float fishing, anything like that. But this, I've never used it. It's my first time out with it today. I've got to say, a 17-foot rod, it's a long rod anyway, isn't it? It's a big piece of kit, but it's very usable. It's light. It just seems to, I don't know, feel nice in the arm, really.
No, I've not owned an Acolyte, but I've got quite a lot of people who come on the Y with me for days out, and I've come across a lot of Acolyte rods, and I've been nothing but impressed with them, really. You know, like so in the smaller version, in the 13-foot, there was a 13-foot and the 14-foot, and then they have the 14. That's another nice fish by the looks of it.
Yeah, it feels.
13-foot and 14-foot, you know, and they have the plus versions, so they're a bit beefed up.
Yeah.
And they've got such a, again, another slim blank, and another nice action, and oh, it's Roach City out there now. Look at this.
It's lovely, isn't it?
It's that time of day, isn't it? It's time for the
Witching hour. We're coming up to the witching hour.
We are. Nice positive fishing on the bollow as well, and it's just, you know, you just chuck it out, let it run, goes under, wind in fish, repeat.
Yeah, and is that not what fishing's all about, Dave?
Well, kind of.
But we're not actually being too negative. I mean, we've got 4 maggots on a size. What's that? 12 what you put on there?
We've had a few bleak problems because you did such a good job of feeding them into the peg.
Now you can't blame me. That was I resolved the problem.
You resolve the problem by shallowing up and fishing for them. So now we've gone on to a proper method. But no, so the Acolyte rods I say, I've come across these 13 and 14 foot versions and genuinely really impressed and seen them on big fish and what have you. So I was really intrigued with 17 foot because there's a lot of there's quite a lot of 15 and 16 foot rods on the market.
Yes.
When you go up to 17 foot, you know, it can change the balance of a rod dramatically, and it's an easy thing to get wrong. So everything looks in order. It looks, you know, they seem to have managed to keep that sort of balance to the rod. I was watching you cast it before, and it's got sort of, you know, a pretty responsive action.
Even with me casting it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can make most rods look bad, but you've not succeeded on this one yet. So.
Well, one thing I want to pay particular homage to, and homage is the right choice of word, I feel, is this reel. Circa 1948. Wouldn't look out of place on the desk at an Antiques Roadshow, Dave. Where did you get it from?
The Antiques Roadshow. No, they're my little automatic bail arm, dab bail arms. I like them. Do you know what? There is a reason I use those on longer rods, and that's because of the weight of them. They're a heavier rod.
Why you liked them?
Yeah, they are on a longer rod. They're a heavier reel, and I feel like it balances out the rod. Serious point. Once you finish mocking my reels, but
well, it's funny you say that because this does strike me. I think I said it before. It strikes me as really usable. Like it doesn't even feel heavy. Like that. One thing I did expect with a 17-foot rod is that I would maybe know I was using it. You know, but
yeah.
But I suppose it makes sense. Of course, the weight you put at this side counterbalances what you've got going on.
Yeah, and it's got to be. Yeah, it's all got to be balanced out. But that, you know, like I say, there's plenty of people who've got a 17-foot rod wrong, You know, and so what would you say? I mean, we're catching some roach and dace on this now. What would you say? You missed that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I missed that one.
Well,
Not surprised on the 12 with 8 maggots on there.
No, that's true enough. But would you say there's something there for the bigger fish? Do you think it would handle a chub or what have you? Or maybe even a barbel?
I think it would. I mean,
it does look nice, doesn't it?
I think if you look, that tip action's soft, but there's a lot going on in the middle there, isn't there?
You know, that's pretty straight, right up from the handle up. It's pretty rigid, which is, as long as it doesn't become too, you know, as long as that doesn't transfer into the top section where you want a bit of give, if you're catching roach and what have you. It's it seems like it's well set up.
I think it's really well set up, as you say. I've seen a lot of these rods on the bank, and I've not had many. Not that fish, I think it is. Right at the top of the peg.
Right on the feed.
I've not heard many people say, is it a fish? No. How did we manage that? It felt like one.
Yeah. You've just played a lump of leaves. Well done. Yeah, no, it's they've built up a good reputation now, and I think, you know, so the 17 foot is, you know, they've got everything covered, haven't they, in the range now? It's
I think they have.
It's good. What are they? What price are these rods then?
I have to double check that, but they're over £200 anyway for a 17 foot.
Which you'd expect to pay for any decent long rod now. You're going to be looking, you know, generally sort of over 200 quid.
I think so. I mean, it's a flagship rod, isn't it? It's the best that Drennan do. It's the choice of a lot of top river anglers. And I want to just say, I mean, it is worth saying. I speak to Alan Scotthorne reasonably regularly, and I've done some work with him in the past and stuff. And I know just how involved he is with the development of tackle at Drennan. He speaks to Peter quite regularly, and works with him on stuff. So, you know, wouldn't surprise me at all to find out that he's had some input into this. It's certainly had input into the Acolyte range. So, you know, it's got the best angler in the world designing the float rods. He's arguably one of the best sort of float anglers at the bottom, I think, down there in the world as well. So an expert in his field. And
you rub shoulders with some people, you do, don't you?
Dave, none of them.
Would you call Alan? Could you say Alan Scotthorne is your friend?
I'd say he's my friend. Whether he'd say that I'm his friend would be
Not a chance.
a different question.
Yeah, no, I have actually seen him use one of these actually on at Shrewsbury.
17 footer.
Severn, yeah, and he could make a broom handle look good, Mike.
I was just going to say that.
But no, he's, you know, the fact is, if he's used it, he's comfortable with it, isn't he? Like I say, he's not.
And he certainly wouldn't use it if he wasn't comfortable.
No.
And another thing that speaks volumes, you know, the Drennan Barnsley team, a lot of them are sponsored by other companies, but I know an awful lot of them do favour these float rods for this sort of fishing.
Yeah.
So there's no sort of ulterior motive there. They don't have to use them.
No. What about the setup? And I mean, having not used the Drennan rods, I don't know what are they like on the guides and the reel seat. What we got on there? I can see a cork handle.
Yeah, it's all cork, which I like, to be honest. I mean, neoprene's nice, but I do like it.
Love a bit of cork, don't
I don't mind it at all. The bottom end, they've got a nice little metal Acolyte plate on there. The rod just feels nice in the hand. Further up the blank, they've got a hook retaining loop there as well.
That's something I've seen a couple of brands get wrong on longer rods. Is the length of the handle, because it's all about balance, like we're saying about the reel and stuff, isn't it? If you have that handle too short, then it becomes top heavy. If it's too long, it becomes cumbersome.
Yeah, exactly.
But that looks just right. What's there? There's about sort of 6 inches out the back of your elbow there.
6 inches out the back of my elbow, Dave.
Yeah.
Bloody lovely.
Not the first time you've said that.
No,
I don't even know what that means.
It's a joy to use, and I suppose you'll be wanting to go in a minute, will you?
I'm watching you do this, and I'm thinking I should have a go.
Oh,
I feel like I can, you know, like I can do it justice.
You put something on Instagram. I think it was Instagram the other day, which I thought was possibly the best Instagram post I've seen in terms of creativity of language. There was something like some picture of some guy on the Y being coached by you, and it said something along the lines of, with the master on your shoulder, the master being yourself. I thought, these Hereford people, no concept of northern modesty, have you?
Oh, well, I didn't say it. He said it about me.
Oh, he said it about you when
Yeah.
you just quoted him on your Instagram. I see. Oh, okay.
Master on your shoulder. Yeah, it wasn't. Someone posted it for me on my Instagram. I think.
Of
I wouldn't
course,
say. I,
somebody posted that old chestnut.
I wouldn't say things like that about myself. But you know, fact is.
So here I am on the River Wye with the master on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And 6 inches sticking out the back of my elbow. You want to go at this?
Oh, you have. Go on, just finish this cast. Go on, let's see. I reckon you're going to catch a decent fish. That's going through lovely now. That wind's dropped.
It's lovely, isn't it, that? Oh, lift back there. Will that be a bleak?
No, that'd be you. It's going to go
just
under
tickling
now.
along.
That's going nice now. This is nice bollow fish. I like this. You don't. Bollow is just such a positive method, isn't it? It's not. You know, you're not trying to do fancy things with the float, holding it back, and you just get it in over your bait and see what's there.
Yeah, let it go through.
I think we'll catch a big fish on
I was
this
going to ask
eventually.
you.
I fancy we'll have
When
a
you
chance
said
of
that, I was
whichever
hoping it
bollow.
would nod its head then, but it didn't. We've had some nice roach. You've had a lovely perch. I've had some quality bleak. Should we finish the day off with a chub or a barbel?
We can try. Let's go mega positive.
Come on then. Let's let the master on the shoulder have a go and see what he can come up with.
What the job I tried to do is right. Rushing and I almost lost it all. Back when I was just a little lost. But now it's not too late. I want to sit and wait. Alone all by myself, I'm not just gonna stay here and wait. I won't let this decide what used to be my fate. Alone all by myself, I'm not just gonna stay here and wait.
Well, Dave, it's taken you about 40 minutes to catch it, but you have finally caught something substantial.
40 minutes. Look at that. Now that
Oh my word, Dave! Even I've got to say that is
you know what I mean. You can't buy that sort of quality.
verging on the terrific.
Look at that for a roach.
Oh, beautiful.
Now that is just perfect autumn fishing. A plump roach that's taken off after fish three maggots to get through the bleak that you've managed to feed into the peg. But the reward, look at that.
Absolutely beautiful.
Now,
And what did you think of the rod?
well, that was it, you see, because that was the perfect tool, because the perfect test for it, because that's done its roachy thing as they do. They come in, they sort of, and they kick. You're winding them in, and it's like
Yeah.
wind, kick, and it just held its shape, and it just sort of took those. I wouldn't say lunges. A fish like that doesn't lunge, but it kicks, and it's
Yeah.
it's. I'm only fishing a 16 hook, and it's well, it didn't pull out, so I suppose it's a thing, but.
Let's just talk through the setup. What you got there then, in terms of the weight of the bollow and
Right.
the shot in it?
So I've got a 6 gram bollow, and I've got that shotted with, a bulk, some drill bullets, and then I've got 3 number 8s on the line. I like to fish positive with these.
Yeah.
So with those 3 number 8s, I can do anything with those. And at the moment, because the bleak have been a problem, rather than having them 3 bulked together, which I've done before on the Y and sometimes
Yeah.
on here to get right down and you can be real positive, I've just spread them over. Over sort of 4 or 5 inches.
Yeah.
Just so it's almost like a bulk effect, but it's still strung. And for those roach, if you just hold the float back or mend the float, you just get a slight rise in
Oh,
it. I make it sound sexy, don't I?
it's not as easy as you make it look, is it, Dave?
It isn't. But I love this now because that wind's dropped a little bit now. You're just casting it out there, pouch full of bait.
So you won't be able to do that with a 13 or a 15-foot rod, would you? That's the top and bottom of it.
No, that's what you're effectively doing is gaining control of your rig. And if you get because if you're getting a bit of a downstream wind or something, it's a nightmare. And you just wouldn't get on top of it. You just.
No.
When you think back to before we used to use long rods, how did we fish the middle of the river with floats? We used to manage somehow, but
Do you remember the days before long rods?
I do actually, Tom. I'm not ashamed to admit it either. It was. I remember fishing with 13-foot rods for years.
You were a man of considerable experience, aren't you?
But I'll tell you one thing I would say is fishing with a 13-foot rod like this for a long time does not make you good when you get a long rod in your hand. It's
I'll bet.
It improves your presentation. You know, this just makes it even easier.
I'm going to ask you, any criticisms, anything you don't like about it?
I haven't had long enough to fish with it and think about it, but I don't know, Tom. I'm struggling. No, you're pushing me. I can't at this moment in time. No.
I can't think of anything. I don't. Literally.
Well, it's a Drennan product, isn't it? It's not been bought out on a whim. It's not been just brought out quickly to get it to market and whatever. It's been thought about. It's been designed.
Yeah.
It's been tested by world champions. So you know, let's be fair. It's not going to be bad. You know, maybe. You know, we always test these products and we give them. You know, we're only giving them an hour or so's workout, so we don't see the full story. You know, so maybe down the line you find something doesn't react very well with a big fish on, or I don't know. There could be something if wind affects it, God knows. But ultimately, in this instance now, fishing as we are, it's perfectly usable. It's a 17-foot rod. I've got loads of control. You know, I've got no faults at the moment. It's not, you know, it looks nice. You know, they always make things look nice, don't they?
Absolutely.
I must have shorter arms than you, because yours was sticking out about that much. Mine's sticking out that much.
Yeah, you've a bit more length than me, Dave. I'd say.
Yeah, you've definitely got the length advantage in elbow, haven't you? Shall I catch another one of them roach now?
Go on then, catch me one more.
Look around you across the street. Took a breath and I walked up to you. I said, darling, I won't get with me. 'Cause now it's not too late. I want to sit away. I know about myself, I'm not just gonna stay away. I want this decide what is to be my fate. I know about myself, I'm not just gonna stay away.
We've took a little break from the angling action to have a look inside Dave's bag.
And once again, Tom, I have to say the bag game is on point.
You're the king
It's
of
the
bag
king.
games, aren't
It's
you?
the king,
Eh?
yeah. Hey, so
Some people have told me you're nothing but a hound dog. Well, I don't believe them,
don't
Dave.
believe them. They've got suspicious minds.
They certainly are.
Right, go on then. Have a look.
I'm hoping that when I look in here, it's not going to be Heartbreak Hotel for me.
Stop it now. Just open the bloody bag.
What looks to be a bag of mail-ordered bait, I'm guessing, because it's pre-packed,
Yeah.
sealed pinkies.
Exactly that point. And we've been on the river today. We've been fishing with classic river combination hempen casters, some nice fresh casters that I got from my local shop, Woodies.
Yeah.
I order fresh bait off him all the time. I like that. I like that relationship. It's important to me to have that, be able to pick up the phone and say, I need such and such casters for such and such day, order it. I know they're going off the riddle out the shop, I know they're fresh as a daisy. I'm not saying that mail order bait isn't fresh, but I have had a instance where I've ordered casters and they've come, and as soon as you've opened them, they've gone grey. So my question to you, Tom, is mail order, fresh, or both? What's your views?
If I could choose, if time was not an issue and convenience wasn't an issue, I would either turn my own bait or go to my local tackle shop, because Wickers Angling is the one I use now. I'm in Sheffield. They turn the most amazing fresh casters. The bait's always brilliant. I'd go there every time. Likewise, when I lived in Daventry, I went to Lanes for the same reason. Drove past a few shops to get to Lanes, I must add. I think it's important to go to a good tackle shop where they do care about bait, because a lot of tackle shops don't care about bait.
Yeah.
But that is in the perfect world, when you've got time, when you've got money, and when you've got, the ability to do that. If you haven't, mail order bait might be the only way some people can get on the bank, because tackle shops everywhere are closing. Like in Sheffield, there's so few now compared to what there was. So if you lived out the west side of Sheffield, you might be half an hour, 40 minutes from a tackle shop. So,
but is this just an addition to the problem of people ordering tackle online? They're now ordering bait online, so the need for those shops has now diminished, or has been damaging to shops.
I think that there's a much wider issue here, and I had quite a heated debate with a tackle shop about this a couple of years ago. Look, you can't blame mail order, internet, everything for the demise of tackle shops. It's happening across the whole retail industry, isn't it? Amazon.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, he's killed a lot of businesses, hasn't he? But then again, it's evolution, it's going on, it will happen. And you know, there are still some brilliant tackle shops. Woody's, you named as an example there, you know. Look, for example, at Tom Lane's, you know, a bait shop, dedicated bait shop that sells fishing tackle as well, and people go there. I know anglers who travel hours to get bait from Lane. It's likewise Wickersley, you know, near me.
I suppose if they've built up that reputation, which say Woody's and Lane's, those are the two that I can relate to, you know, and they'll always have that business from people. And I just think it's still an important relationship for me, that going into that shop, being able to get, you know, order for it. And also it's for those, sometimes those short notice things where suddenly you think, oh, I could do with an extra pint of casters for tomorrow. You know, you can't do that online. It's you know, although it's a quick turnaround these days, you can't just do that. So yeah, I think it's, you know, as much like you say, you can't blame the closure of tackle shops on bait companies. I'm just saying, for me, I feel I get a guarantee with this because I order it, and that's, you know, you can only buy what's on the shelf if you go online.
I've got to say as well, Dave, a lot of the pre-ordered bait I've seen is okay. The one thing I have seen be quite bad in the past sometimes has been casters, but I've also seen tackle shops, like local small tackle shops, who are just as bad for keeping bait far too long if they can't sell it, and then, you know, you end up, I've seen some horrendous quality bait come from local shops. So just because it's a local tackle shop doesn't necessarily mean that that the bait will be any good, and you might well find that a mail order company can give you better bait than your local tackle shop.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, isn't it? It's going to come down to personal experience. If you go to a local shop and you're served a load of dross, because let's be fair, it doesn't matter what quality it is, they're still going to sell the same price. It's not casters particularly are not a cheap commodity. So, you know, that trust is built, isn't it? And it's the same as anything. And if you order online and get a load of rubbish through the post, you're not going to do that again. And the same ways if your tackle shop isn't particular, but I'm a big one for that relationship, that face-to-face relationship with your shop. Get that relationship going, because it can be so helpful for your fishing when you need that a little bit extra, or you've forgotten to order, or that sort of thing.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. We've talked a lot about bait. Should we go and fire some in the river?
Yeah, let's go and catch some more.
So there we have it, Dave. 3 fabulous rods. I've got to say, I can't really pick a criticism with anything we've tested today. And sometimes I think I might be failing in my duty a little bit, because the idea is we do pick the odd.
Yeah, I don't think it's the products that we're reviewing. You know, they've all been in a high price bracket today, and I think, you know, these are from companies that are, you know, well founded in this country. You know, they're well grounded. They're not going to launch something that's rubbish. You know, that's the reality now. So if we're picking faults in things, we're really like scraping the barrel. But it's whether they do the job that we're ultimately testing them on the jobs that they're intended for, and that might they're ticking the box.
That might be the thing as well. You know, it might be just worth saying, you know, yes, the cheapest rod that we've tested today was 179 quid.
Yeah.
So you know, these aren't budget products, but believe me, guys, if you buy one of these rods, you will not be disappointed. They are fantastic pieces of kit.
They're right in the price range. You know, they're where they should be, and they're very good. They're just quality. And if you were going to, you know, as most people do these days, you want to compare against other rods, these will stand up. You could put them in a test, you know. And although we've done like two 13-foot rods, they were different rods, you know, for different purposes, in my opinion, and we use them for different purposes. But if you were going to take each one of those rods, there'd be other rods you can compare up against them, and from what I've seen, these rods would stand up to the competition.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a fabulous day. Shall we go and have some fish and chips from the old chippy on the corner?
Fish and chips in Bewdley, it sounds like that. Yeah, let's go and do that. Yeah.
Come on, mate. Right.